My question is to the Minister of Finance. What reports has he received on New Zealand's economic position?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, today Statistics New Zealand published current account data for the March quarter 2010 shows a current account deficit to the year ended March 31st of 4.5 billion, around 2.4% of GDP. This is one of the lowest deficits, and it is the lowest deficit in more than 20 years. However, the latest figure reflects a mix of permanent and temporary factors. It includes the benefits of recent high commodity prices, the revenues from major tax cases and reductions in imports during the recession. Most forecasts show the deficit widening again, though not to the previous extreme levels of 9 or 10% of GDP. The data reinforce the need for New Zealand to tilt the economy towards savings, exports and productive investment and away from excessive borrowing, debt and government spending increases.
David Bennett.
Supplementary question to the Minister of Finance. What are the main reasons for New Zealand's current account deficit?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, the current account deficit has, through the last cycle, got particularly bad partly because of the mismanagement of the temporary boom of recent years. New Zealand's external liabilities have risen almost 40% to $167 billion over the past 5 years. The cost of servicing this is more than 5% of GDP. At almost 90% of GDP, our external liabilities are similar to those of Spain, Ireland, Portugal, Hungary and Greece, names the House might recall from recent media coverage. This is why the government has placed such emphasis on financial stability. We have been successful up to now, but there is still plenty of work to do.
The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr Speaker, to the Minister, why is he attempting to take credit for the recent result when JP Morgan has labelled the improvement as short-lived and both Treasury and the Reserve Bank are forecasting the current account deficit to almost triple over the next few years?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, I'm not trying to take credit for it, and actually pointed out in my answer to the primary question exactly that forecasters expect it to get worse. What I have pointed out to the House, though, is that it's vital we turn around our external position, because under the mismanagement of the previous government, our external liabilities have now reached, well, the member should listen, our external liabilities are now 90% of GDP. Other countries with external liabilities at a similar level are Spain, Ireland, Portugal, Hungary and Greece, each of which has featured significantly in the international media because of their substantial financial challenges.
David Bennett.
Supplementary question to the Minister of Finance. What steps is the government taking to address New Zealand's current account problems?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, to improve the current account, which, as the opposition have pointed out, is forecast to get significantly worse again, the government needs to raise exports and save more. The budget was certainly focused on achieving this with a new operating spending allowance of just $1.1 billion, about half the level of previous years. We've also set out to rebalance the tax system by increasing consumption taxes and taxes on property speculation, and reducing tax on income, savings and productive investment. We should also acknowledge the success of some of the Reserve Bank measures in having an effect on the length of term of the debt that New Zealand owes to the rest of the world.
Honourable David Cunliffe.
Speaker, given that both the government and the opposition are now agreed that the problem is expected to get worse and that the need for rebalancing includes closing the savings gap, why did the government cut in half the incentives for KiwiSaver and continue to defer indefinitely the pre-funding of New Zealand superannuation?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, we've answered those questions before, and no doubt Labor will spend the next 10 years trying to justify its policies of the last 10. We did that because we had better ideas, and actually it wasn't difficult.
David Bennett.
Supplementary question to the Minister of Finance. What alternative economic policies would aggravate New Zealand's current account position and mortgage our families' futures?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, there are a different set of choices the government could make. We could, for instance, increase personal income taxes We could increase government spending significantly faster. That would therefore increase the need for borrowing. We could meddle with the Reserve Bank's toolkit for containing inflation. These are all policies advocated by the opposition. We disagree with them.
Question number 4, the Honourable David Cunliffe.